Hey Nepenthes lovers, Dom here at Red Leaf Exotics. Today I'm going to be taking some cuttings on a beautiful Nepenthes. You guys have been asking me to do a video on taking cuttings, so today it is time for this plant to get chopped. It's always so hard to chop them, especially when they're such a beautiful form. This is a Tivii Sarawak Red, or Maxima Cross Veitchii from Exotica. It has a nice big basal, it has beautiful lower pitchers, and it has this big vine, and I don't want to breed with this at least anytime soon or anything, so I'm okay with cutting it. And a note on when you are doing cuttings, some people are like, can I just chop my Nepenthes up, do cuttings? I mean, you can, but what I have always done and always will do, I never cut a Nepenthes, I mean, depending on what it is, unless there's a basal. The basal is a sure sign that if none of these cuttings root, I still got my main plant, and there's nothing really to lose. So a nice big healthy basal ensures that I could take these cuttings with confidence and not be afraid of losing the plant. So let's get into this, let's do cuttings. It is very easy, and there's a lot of information. So many different growers do things different ways. It all depends on what works for you and your conditions. I've taken cuttings for years now, and I've done it many different ways, and today I'm going to do the cuttings the way that works best for us here at the nursery in our conditions, which is so easy. So let's get into this. I have my really sharp shears here in front of me. I did have these soaking in this water, or it's rubbing alcohol here. This will sterilize the blade. You can also burn it, and what that does is just clean the blade in case you had a fungus or just some kind of pathogens in your grow environment. You don't want to be spreading that in between your plants, especially when you have a huge collection of really nice plants. So cleanliness is always first, so clean your blade. I did that here, and then I have a little cup of water that I'm going to be putting my cuttings in as I take them. So here we go. This is always the hardest part, guys. To cut your plant, the stem, I'm going to go right at soil level. And before you cut it too, make sure you're cutting the right thing. There have been times where I, even with pitchers, have go to cut something and I cut the wrong thing and then I'm crying. So this is the vine, right? Yep, this is it. Talk to yourself out loud if it works. I'm going to give it a nice cut. Immediately what I do when I take a cutting is I go and clean it up. I get rid of all the pitchers. Goodbye. Oh God, it's so hard. There's juice flowing everywhere. I get rid of the tendrils. When you're doing cuttings and they're in the container and you have them around other plants, it is really easy for the tendrils to clasp onto whatever's nearby, accidentally pull the cutting out of the soil, and you just do not want that. So get rid of the tendrils, they're just in the way at this point. And this is the stem I'm going to be working with. A lot of cutting should come out of this. And I always start from the top. So when you're taking cuttings, there's a couple things you can do. Some people take small cuttings, and by small I mean with one node or two nodes, and a node is just where an activated growth can come from. So there's a node right here, I see a little growth, there's a node right there, there's a node around where every leaf comes out. So for us, we love to do two nodes per cutting. Just gives you a higher activation rate. In case one doesn't want to grow, you have another node that might activate there. So I'm going to start here, and with this one, since I have the main growth and this nice healthy leaf, I'm going to cut halfway between this leaf and where this leaf starts, right here, and I'm going to cut it at a nice clean 45-degree angle. Plop, right there. Now I'm going to put that in water, and I'm going to work my way down the stem. If you've been growing Nepenthes for a while, you could totally just take a cutting of each one leaf per cutting, but we kind of like to do every 2 leaves. This does have very long stem in between each leaf, so I might actually do some that are just one leaf. We do root our cuttings in the lowland where it's a lot warmer and a lot more humid, so they tend to root a lot faster. If you're rooting your cuttings maybe indoors or the humidity's too low, the temperature's not great, maybe you do want to stick to the 2 nodes for heightening your chances. But I think I'm pretty okay with at least this stem doing one leaf. Gonna stick that in the water. cut it here, stick it in the water. And notice that I'm cutting a little high above where the nodes are. When the cuttings are settling in and as they're rooting, the top can dry out and it could come down the stem. So you want to be high enough up so that you're not drying out the node, which has happened. So cut up high in between where your cutting will be. Nice 45-degree angle. And there also is a paste made for cuttings where you can paint over, horticultural paint, paint over this and reduce the amount of water that is lost by the cutting. But we don't do that here. We have really good conditions for just rooting them naturally. Okay, so let's work with this cutting here. When we do a cutting like this, we'll usually keep the whole top new leaf. And if there's a second leaf below, we cut it, I don't know, we leave about a third of it on there. A nice clean cut. And what that does is that leaf, all of that leaf, would take up a lot of water as the plant is trying to grow. So we kind of reduce the surface area. We keep one leaf on top. So this is what a typical cutting can look like. Again, there's no strict standard to this. This is just what we do. But here's a cutting here. To root this, now, you could stick this in rooting hormone or gel. We find that it has actually clogged up the end of some of our cuttings, so we don't use anything. We just snip it, dip it in water, keep it in the water, and then we'll put it right into our medium. Here I have a pot that's ready. It's with pure long fiber sphagnum. And what you're gonna do is, this is nice and compact. It's not too hardly pushed in there, but you could see, you could push down a little bit. And what you're gonna do is with your finger, a pencil, a knife, whatever, make a little hole in the top, deep enough to insert your cutting. You can see there's a nice hole there. And you're just gonna stick your cutting right in there, cozy it in. This leaf is nestling it in really nice. I'm gonna push down around it just a little bit. I am gonna give this a nice heavy watering. Water it in, make sure it comes out the bottom of the pot. I love being in the greenhouse and being messy, water everywhere. But there, that cutting is ready to go. I already have my name tag here, Tivii Sarawak Red from EP with the date on the back. And for us, it roughly takes 4 to 8 weeks for our cuttings to activate, start growing, and looking nice. So this is pretty much ready to go. And what you can do if you're in a greenhouse or outside of a greenhouse, like in a grow tent or a windowsill or just in-house conditions, less than ideal, you can cover the cuttings. You can put a humidity dome over them. The most important thing for cuttings is really high humidity, and you want to keep them on the warmer side, definitely 65 degrees and above. You don't want to get cool highland temperatures unless you have really good light. But here in the greenhouse, especially the highland, it's going into the 50s at night now. This is probably going to have a hard time rooting. So that's why when we do our cuttings, we move them over to the lowland where it's more humid, more warm, and we keep them out of very strong light until we notice that there's an activated node starting to grow. Too much light can dry them out, and you definitely do not want your cuttings drying out. Moisture, good humidity is really important during the rooting process, so make sure to not let them dry out, and then just continue the same thing. I'll go ahead and do all of these cuttings today and get them all in pots. And now you could see this pot size. This plant will grow in here for months and start to grow, and then we'll sell it as a rooted cutting. You can do a bigger pot and do multiple cuttings and put a bag up over it. There's just so many things you can do. You really have to find out what works in your conditions. Experimenting is the key to growing Nepenthes amazing. I put my time in, so you guys got to put yours in too. But this is it. This is all it takes to do a cutting. It's so easy. Just remember, if you're new to this, do your best to keep 2 nodes in between each cutting. Don't cut too close to the top node. Maybe trim a third of the bottom leaf off. You could keep the nice top leaf. This probably will crinkle up and dry as the days go on, but it will stop at some point and then you'll see the activation happen. So nice and humid, warm, consistent, never drying out, and that is all it takes to do Nepenthes cuttings, guys. It is not hard. It's really easy. If there's anything I didn't touch on in this video, if you have more specific questions, I'm here to talk to you guys. Love conversing about Nepenthes. So just hit me up if you have any questions. That is it. I'm gonna go put this back in the collection and cry over the uppers that are here in front of me and get these rooted cuttings here in front of me done. I'm Dominic Ravine here at Red Leaf Exotics, and we will see you guys soon for another video. Thanks, guys.